I'm going to want to ask this to you, but I also just want to maybe understand how your career went for you. Because just from like an interpretation of someone just like reading up on your career, how it went, I'm curious if you making defense a priority in your career and your game was aligned with making a career in the league and really starting, finding a home in the league. Would you say that those two went hand in hand? Because it's cliche when people.
Yeah, because this is the thing. I tell kids this all the time. You got to be able to score the basketball in order to get to the NBA. So what happens is you have these kids in high school right now saying things like, I'm gonna be a lockdown defender like you. I'm like, no, man, put that ball in the hole. And if you can guard others, then that's where it really starts to begin, because I was a scorer in college, Europe, CBA. Yeah. Then I got to Miami, I had to become a role player. And that's the thing that so many guys don't understand about the game right now is that, sometimes if you're not touted as what a coach is looking for, if you don't have that behind you, then you really have to figure it out real quick. You have to figure out, how can I impact the game when I'm on the floor? Or how can I impact this team where they feel that I'm a necessity? And so here it is. When I first got called up to Miami, it was Dan Marley, Bashan Leonard, Jamal Mashburn. All these guys were there. And I remember the first game against the Houston Rockets. I remember like it was yesterday. We used to have to work out before the games, and the workouts were incredible. They were a sight to see, because Riles went hard, and if you weren't playing, he didn't want you missing a beat when it came to your conditioning. And so I said to Mark, yeah, I'm gonna do mine after the game, because I want to be fresh for the game. And Mark said, what, man, you ain't playing. What you mean you want to do yours after the game? And so I happened to get in with a minute to go in the game. And I remember Dan Marley saying this to Mark. Hey, Mark, I think you got in the game. But that was just, the fact that just that moment, though, I got in, I got a block shot. And it's crazy because people look at that and it's like, well, you were just destined to be a defender. No, I just wanted to get on the floor. Same thing with Mark. Mark wanted to get on the floor, and those are the things that you did, whatever you had to at that particular moment.
Right. The cliche that I was playing to is that if nothing else is going right for you, play defense, right? That's what even kids are, if you're wanting more playing time, play defense, So I was wondering if that cliche played to your career, and it seems like it did, even though it was later on.
Well, it depends on, I guess it's interesting, because if you say that, then you limit somebody's, I think their opportunities, because nobody, now trust me, no one wants to be known as a defender, because it's the craziness of the game. And this is where I differed from others. I remember guys saying stuff during the course of the game, all he is a defender, but they were saying it from the bench. I'm in the game. See, I'm in the game, but you on the bench, you talking about what I am. Now, even as a defender, now basketball is not like football. You got your special teams, you got your defense, you got your offense. Well, it's all in one in basketball. And I can still make shots when I'm on the floor. Mm-hmm. You can't make shots sitting on the bench, chirping that he's just a defender.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, that definitely kicks us off. We're here with Bruce Bowen and Mark Strickland to talk about perimeter defense. But yeah, I just found your career very interesting. It looked like it was quite a good, enjoyable journey for you, right? Where you learn a lot, you're put in a lot of different situations, adversity, and, a lot of the times defense is the answer to that call. And in turn, everything else will come, the buckets and the assists and everything. So I guess that was where I wanted to start off. But if you want, we still here?
Bruce?
Hello?
Yep. Okay, cool. That's where I wanted to start off, but if you just wanted to, no one wants to be known as a defender. Tell us about why that's something that you take pride in, and kind of where defense, just still kind of is a characteristic that you hold true to yourself as a player.
Well, I'm a 70s baby. So it was different, in the 80s when you play organized basketball. When you got to a coach around our time, you had to know how to play defense to get on the floor. So there was this old deal we used to do. We used to go pistols, pistols, pistols. That means, you utilize your peripheral vision, and you don't have to look over here or look over here to see where your man is. That was one of the cardinal sins growing up, is if you turned your head and the ball was on the opposite side, you're going to miss what's going on that other side. And how intricate the details are when you talk about championship teams. The intricacies of defense is, if there's no middle, first and foremost, you can't allow a player to get middle. Everything is forced baseline. Now, in the process of forcing someone baseline, you have to rotate, and everybody moves on a string. It shouldn't be one guy moving only. See, and these are the things that I think is harder for today's individuals when it comes to playing the game of basketball, because so many AAU squads are just running zones. And in the NBA, yes, you can run zone for a little bit, but it does not take hold of what you need if you're trying to gain a championship.
Right.
So for me, getting on the floor, it involved defense. So you had to be able to stop someone. And just from that, in high school, it went to, even more so in college. And then I go to Europe. Now in Europe, it was different because you were usually assigned a top scorer on the other team, which is a lot of times was the American. Mm-hmm. So the only way that you were going to show who should be out there, or that competitive rah, rah, rah when it comes to us in this game of basketball, was I'm going to shut you down and I'm going to score 30. And then people going to see who's the best.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I think that's interesting. That's not one of the cardinal rules about the pistols and your peripheral vision. Never heard that before. So, and I'm a late 80s baby.
You never
so
heard the pistols?
No, and I could really only imagine how surprising that might be, a cardinal sin of a player getting called out when their head is turned and the ball's over there. Those are not details I saw until college. So that's pretty amazing to hear that, potentially there's some changes in focus between, when you were younger, between the kids today. But, what are some of your biggest defensive moments, some of the bigger defensive, maybe the offenders, the players that you guarded, that taught you, that challenged you the most, and it kind of taught you more about being a good perimeter defender?
Well, being first and foremost a part of Miami Heat's organization was the best thing, I think, for me coming into the league, and then understanding that we used to get these scouting reports, and some guys just look at it for a little bit and they toss it, but I'm looking in detail at the guys that I would guard, and I'm amazed at all the information they have on them. And, at this particular juncture in the game, you have to be able to think the game as well as play the game. One of the things you hated to hear anybody say is that, hey, man, that kid got a bunch of potential. Yeah, but he doesn't think the game. See, that means he's not able to absorb all the information that's being given to him to enhance his abilities during the course of the game. Mm-hmm. So I remember during the Heat-Knick rivalries, the whole thing with Latrell Sprewell, he wants his right hand. He wants that right hand so bad. Mm-hmm. Allen Houston wants a rocker step. So you have to be physical with Allen Houston. And I remember being isolated on the top of the key. And at that particular time, you're isolated. There is no help. And Riley was big on we didn't double team when we played. So you really have to take into account all the little things now, all those little tidbits you got in that scouting report, and apply it to that particular moment right then and there, almost being a step ahead of the individual. So it's more to it than just, just guard him this way. No, you have to do work as well not just the physical aspect of things, but it's also the thinking as well.
Absolutely. So the scouting reports, it seems like, obviously in the league, you're getting those scouting reports. How were you any more obsessed or any more knowledgeable about scouting reports? Was there anything that you were holding an edge over your teammates aside from the physical aspect of maybe being quicker than them and all that stuff? Was there,
No, there was no edge coming from Cal State Fullerton. I mean, in Miami, we were doing individual workouts, and I remember I said this to Jamal Mashburn one day. I said, "Man, this is really cool to help your game." And he just looked at me like, "I've been doing this since college." And that was amazing to me, because it just spoke of where Pitino was as compared to a lot of the other college coaches. Now we're talking about a Pitino that had already coached in the NBA with the Knicks, but now he's back in college during that time. So it was a lot of eye-opening experiences for me when I got to Miami. The only thing that I felt like I had an edge in people was conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way I was going to be tired, because I come from some good coaches that really stress that, hey, you might not be able to make a layup, you might not be able to make a shot, but if you can outrun somebody, you might be able to get that layup back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the amount of conditioning compared to other positions on the court, I mean, to guard full court it's a whole nother beast.
Well, the first day of training camp with the Miami Heat is a beast.
Yes.
There's 5 17s you must run in a certain time. And then you start a 3-hour practice.
Yes.
So see,
if you don't make them, you continue.
You continue the next day. Now, see, I don't know about Strick, but I know for me, that third one, I started running scared, because I knew I didn't want to come back to that. So it was about the conditioning, and I just think about this now. We would go 2-a-days for 3 hours each. And now the game is the 2-a-day consists of film and very light work on the floor. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I really believe that part of the reason why we see more injuries today is because guys' bodies aren't prepared for the 82-game season. Why aren't their bodies prepared? Because they're not utilizing a month long of training camp. Now, it doesn't make you feel good, obviously, but it gets your body prepared. They have so many of these different workout gurus, or these guys that they hire, and they only push them to a certain limit. See, if I'm a workout guru and I'm working this guy and I'm getting paid good money, I'm not going to make him really throw up, because I still want to collect the check. So I'm just going to go as far as he lets me, and then we'll deal with things from there.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, being a perimeter defender, being all defensive team, year after year, you're going to be, most nights, night in, night out, unless you got Shaq in the paint, you're going to be the go-to guy on your opponent's best man. So what is it like to not only hold that pressure for your team, but to be physically prepared to show up for that night in and night out?
Well, I think that's your time to shine, if that's what your role is on that team. See, and that was my role, in Miami and San Antonio, but I started to really understand it to another level where I didn't frown upon it, even though you hear the naysayers, and I didn't frown upon it. I was like, wow, I'm welcoming this, because if I'm guarding Kobe Bryant one night and he goes 4 for 23, what can a commentator say? Is that just an off night? And then the next time I'm out there guarding Allen Iverson, he goes 3 for 15. Is that an off night, or am I contributing to some of the things that transpires out there? You see, I enjoyed that aspect of how I did things. And I remember one week I had this as 4 games in 7 days. I had Kobe Bryant, Ray Allen, Vince Carter, and Tracy McGrady. That was, and for me, I'm a little cynical. I was
gonna get.
I mean, but I'm cynical this way, where I'm like, ooh, I can't wait for this, because it was about the spirit of competition. And at the end of the day, if you truly love what you do, oh my goodness, I was a pig in slop when I had those types of weeks. And then you have those times where you have to get up for someone you may not understand so well, like a Michael Redd in the beginning. Michael Redd had an awkward shot because his release point was more behind his head, and he was left-handed. He fit the system of what they ran as far as constant movement when he was in Milwaukee under George Karl. So it was his movement. I had to do a lot of chasing, and then contest. What I'm used to is going at a right-handed player, but now I have to change it up where I have to go at a left-handed guy. Now, how do I get my hand in his vision and things of that nature? So it's always different things to when you're guarding someone. It's not just as simple as saying, okay, all you got to do is this. All these guys, they were different and special in their own way. AI, obviously, you knew he wasn't going to settle for jump shots. He was constant attack. Kobe could attack. He could get to certain spots on the floor. You had to be aware of his range. Vince Carter, if he just, it was sometimes where I felt like Vince didn't come prepared for a game, ready to bring the fight to the game. If he had that attitude that no one can stop me, maybe he would have ended up with a championship. Mm-hmm. And then you got Tracy McGrady and his skill set as a 6'10" guy, being able to handle like a guard, to post up, fadeaways, all these different things. Their strengths, they were so different in how they played, but yet they were so effective for their ball club.
Mark, do you have any questions? I
want you to talk about the beginning days, man. Like when we started in Fort Wayne. Just talk about your mentality coming from Cal State Fullerton, then switching your mentality to Fort Wayne, and then that situation not working. And then I remember you came to the Heat and then played well, but then they didn't want to reward you. And then you go to Boston, and then all of a sudden, you go to Boston, and then all of a sudden now they didn't want to reward you, and now you're in San Antonio. Now you back to the Heat.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now it takes off. But I want to talk about your mentality in those beginning days, man, where me and you both was like, it's not for sure that you're going to get to the NBA. It's not
you got that right.
So I want you to talk about that psyche and that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, taking it back to Fort Wayne, I really got introduced to the game, to the business of basketball, because Fort Wayne, Indiana, is a lot of people consider Indiana the birthplace of basketball. And so, I remember Bruce Stewart was the coach there, and we're playing and we're playing this pickup, and I'm scoring, I'm doing what I do. And so we start the season. I don't know where Mark was when we started the season, but all of a sudden, Indiana Pacers cut Damon Bailey. And so Damon Bailey comes to Fort Wayne Fury. And I remember I was starting at the time. And so Damon Bailey holds a press conference after our game in Grand Rapids. And he says, I didn't come here to sit the bench. And I'm like, I didn't pay any attention to it. Then at practice and that, we had this game when we play in the CBA, however way you score, you go do it. He was a smaller guy. I went to the block, post up, score. And immediately Bruce blows his whistle. I don't want that. And I'm like, you don't want that? What does that mean? And so a long story short, he was setting it up because he was going to cut me, because Damon had said these words, and the ownership, I mean, this is Mr. Basketball in Indiana for years. Mm-hmm. He committed to Indiana in the 8th grade. So,
oh, wow.
Oh yeah. So I ended up hopping on a team in Rockford, Illinois. And it was interesting, the grind and the fight and what you had to deal with then. From college, I had teammates that I didn't necessarily vibe with. And I always thought that was preparation for something. And so when you can't control the narrative, you have to deal with it. You have to accept what it is and keep the best mindset that you can as far as pushing forward. So after that, I said, okay, I get to Rockford. Okay, I got a new lease on life, so to speak. And now I'm starting to think, I think I'm going to go back to Europe because, number one, I need some money. I made maybe around $130,000 in Europe. And the CBA, I didn't even make $5,000 at the time. So I'm thinking along the lines of livelihood too. I'm like, I got to make some money. So I go back to France, and I get into it with a guy, and my agent gets me out of there. So I come back to the States. I go back to Rockford. I'm scoring, and Miami calls me up from that situation. And when I get to Miami, now the little backstory where Mark talked about me going to Boston, again, I'm learning the business of basketball early. So my first opportunity with Miami Heat, I went to one of the, Mark will remember these weekend workouts they used to have where they bring in like 40 guys, and they would say, hey, we got 2 spots available. But in reality, they didn't have any spots available because those 2 spots were already taken. What they wanted to see is who was here that could compete and possibly fit into their type of organization. So I was supposed to go to Milwaukee, Cleveland, and Orlando after my little mini camp with Miami. Pat Riley said to me, you know what, Bruce, I think your best opportunity is here. And I'm like, whoa, what? Hey, I'm hearing it from the GOAT. Yeah. All right. I'm not going to those other spots. Well, by me not going to those other spots, I cut off my options. Yeah. So when I got cut from Miami, nobody else knew about me. So I finally get back to Miami, and that summer when they were hemming and hawing, they didn't want to give me a guaranteed contract. Pitino had a workout in Florida, and I went to that workout, and I left that workout with a 2-year deal just because I didn't shut off my options. So again, basketball isn't just about, ooh, yeah, I'm running, jumping, doing it. It's a business, and I'm learning on the fly, and I'm thankful for that, because I think the only reason why I got back to Miami was because, you know, they knew I was green in a lot of things, and I was just trying my hand out. Went to Boston for 2 years. It didn't work out. Got to Philly. And then in Philly, got traded, and I was part of the trade that brought Tony Kukoc back. I only say that because it sounds good, like I was really like Tony Kukoc. But that's what allowed me to get back to Miami. So what I understood then is that, okay, they know I'm talented. They know I can do something for them. They haven't taken their eyes off of me. They see that I just haven't been able to play in certain situations. And when I came back, I don't think I played the first 3 games. And then we play the Knicks. I play that game, and the rest is history, because it was the change of mentality, Mark, I think was more or less about continue on. If you believe in it, you know, you can't, we're always going to have moments where, man, is this really for me? Do I really want to pursue basketball? My thought process was, when I went back to France after the whole Damon Bailey thing, I said, well, if this is what God has for me, then this is it. I'm not going to fight it, because I'm making a great living, and I'm not stuck on, oh man, I need to be in the NBA. I need to be in the NBA. My thought process, I remember I had a conversation with my mom right before I got called up. I said, Mom, if this is what it is, hey. And lo and behold, that's when it just all took off. And I believe that the message in all that is, if you focus on your craft and you are content with where you are and who you are, and not constantly comparing yourself to others, I think better things are going to happen for you. But when people are always talking about, man, look at him, man, look at them, look, you're too busy complaining to even work on your craft.
So did you, I mean, that just goes in regards to like the whole journey and the process of everything, you know, when you were in Fort Wayne, when you were kind of traveling, you weren't thinking that you were going to be an 8-time all defensive team. That's something that crossed, was that on your vision board? You know, anything defensive, you know, was that on your vision board?
The craziest thing is that when I was in France, I had a dream that I was a 2-time champ. I won an NBA title twice. That was the dream. And when I woke up, I was like, but I'm in France. Yeah. Oh, okay, whatever. It was not something that I was thinking like, ooh, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. What you're worried about in the CBA, in all seriousness, is this. You see somebody new walk in, like you look at their size And if he's 6'5", 6'7", I'm like, uh-oh. All right. Because in the CBA, it was no, hey, you know, we're just going to bring this guy in to do this or do that. They were cutthroat.
Yeah.
They brought in players that they were going to replace you with, and you see them walk in after practice. That was the worst thing. They made you practice, and then they're going to cut you.
Yeah.
And I saw many of folks go after coaches because it's like, man, this is some bull. You ain't gonna do me like this. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those days were like crazy, man. I mean, I always commended you, and I use you as an example a lot. I know you don't know that, but I always throw your name up a lot, especially when I'm dealing with my son, because he's a 6'8", and he plays 1 through 4. He's at University of St. Louis, so I always use you as an example, especially when it comes to defense and reading scouting reports. I always tell him, because I did it too. Remember that? We go to training camp and we get that book like this, and then you get another book like this, and then, you know, and then you get videos as you go during the day. And Pat Riley was not going backwards. That's what I tell people all the time. I always tell my kids now, Hoop Dreams Academy, man, like, yo, watch the guy in front of you. Watch the guy in front of you. No coach is going to go back and explain things to you. So I really commend you, man, on that, man, on how you just stuck with it, man. When I saw you win that first championship, you were trying to get that head in the camera.
Oh, come on now. I knew where the
like,
camera was.
Honestly, man, that felt like I won a championship too. I was like so proud, man, because it was just like, man, that guy came from where I came from, you know. Me coming to Miami was a one-day trial, like 1 day, and I wasn't gonna come because I was like, what are they gonna see in 1 day? 1 day, and I've been here ever since. 1 day, 2-hour workout got me here the rest of my life. Like, I'm here with sunshine. I'm in the office where I'm looking at the beach, the water right now.
Both of you still living in your respective cities, you know what I mean?
So, you know, it's like, it's crazy, man. I felt honored. I really want to thank you for coming on, man. I just feel like you can give these kids today, man, so much information because everybody, I mean, every kid I talk to wants to be LeBron, man. I was like, man, there's only one of those. There's only one of those, man. Like, do you see all those other guys in the NBA? They're not LeBron, but they making good money. See what I'm saying? So,
and that goes to being content with who you are, Mark. And sometimes because it's in the rearing, the teaching of the game today is not what it once was. Whereas, and then you got everybody that's looking solely at LeBron. I mean, there are people that I wanted to be, but I knew I wasn't. I knew I couldn't fly like Mike.
Yeah.
So, you know, you said something there. I remember Stan Van Gundy at one of these little workouts. This guy was trying to play the okie doke, like, hey, coach, what was that? What'd you say? And Stan said to him, just watch the guy in front of you. I said, ooh, this is another level because he already had enough of that guy. I just want to make sure that if I had a question, I'm attentive. Or if I see him explaining something, I'm paying attention to that because I might be in that situation at some point. And so when it comes to a lot of these kids, Mark, I'm teaching. I'm trying to teach now. I go back as far as the fundamentals because obviously everybody that you know, when I first saw you, I remember I was like, man, he long and he runs all day. And I said something to you one time. I was like, hey, where you want it at? Just throw it up. See that's the difference. If you ask a kid today, where you want to, well, I like to come off a pin down, and then when I catch it, I want everybody to clear out. No, you were hungry, Mark. You just throw it. I'm gonna go get it. And I remember one time I threw one too high to you, and you made it seem like it was your fault. But you know, it's really something when you are truly content in who you are and comfortable with all the work that you've put in. One of the things I was always amazed at as well, Mark, is that Stan Van Gundy would sweat when he worked me out. I mean, like, my thoughts was, if this man right here is sweating, I better make sure I'm doing my part too.
Exactly.